Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, we're going to be talking about my 5 most liked events. Now, before we get started, I want to talk about an honorable mention, and that is Years of Little Rain. And the reason why Years of Little Rain isn't one of these 5 is because this event is extremely positive for the team. Just like Farmers and Relentless Optimism were negative, this is very positive. And let's read what the card does. It says, for each board, discard the top mine, so it's a payment event for water. And if you don't pay for it, you're going to flip cards from the top of the minor deck. If it has water, you're okay. If it lacks water, you blight. And then all towns, cities, and Dahan have -1 health. This is amazing if you're trying to kill a lot of buildings in the slow phase. This is the negative, like a possibility of blighting, and then invaders have -1 health. Now the positive, if you pay 4 energy per player aided by water, you then get to proliferate. Each spirit may add one of their presence to one of their lands at Dahan. This is huge. We've talked about how powerful proliferation effects are in my previous videos. So just allowing every spirit on the team, assuming they meet this condition, where presence is in a land with Dahan, to prolif is just, it's insane. Just very, very powerful. And also the bottom 2 parts of this event are also very powerful. Beast attack and the Dahan defense. Beast attack as the most favorable beast damage event, doing 2 damage per beast. And then canny defense, giving you defend 1 per Dahan. So overall, this card is very, very positive. It's unlikely it stays this positive. If they ever create like a hypothetical second edition. Honestly, this card in Farmers could probably flop the bottom parts of it and it would be more balanced. But I would rather Farmers be completely redesigned, and then Years of Little Rain keep this top part, because I think having proliferation effects is fine if there's a couple of them, but all of this should be negative. If you're going to let the team proliferate, this should not be as powerful as it is. And then you can put some of these other effects that are on some of the other bad cards, like, let me pull it up, like Remnants here, where Hunting Parties is negative, and same with Thousand Small Struggles. You could actually toss one of these bottom parts here on Years onto this card and basically switch them. So swap the beast events, because now all of a sudden beasts can do something and you won't feel so negative about the top part. And then over here, Years of Little Rain, you'll lose some beasts. So that's how I'd fix the card. Now, let's get to the purpose of this video. We have 5 cards. These are my favorite event cards. Starting off with number 1. Sacred Sites Under Threat. This is the fire payment event, and it's going to be different compared to all of the other payment events. You can see water, earth. This is actually going to pay 3 fire per sacred site you have with invaders. This is something very commonly missed by a lot of players. So let me, if I can actually sit, I don't think I can. It's a shame. I got to do this, I think. Seat controls. There we go. Just lost the game. So it says, so you get to choose top or bottom. Pretty much you always want to choose bottom here, because bottom gives you 2 options. It says for each 3 energy per land where you do damage aided by fire. And this is talking about lands with sacred sites and invaders. Honestly, this top part needs to be reworded. It's pretty confusing. So if I have a sacred site here, sacred site there, and a sacred site there, if I have an explorer town, and then nothing, I have 2 sacred sites with invaders, so therefore I need to pay 6 energy or 6 fire in order to correctly pay for this event. Now, I then get to choose. If I pay for all of the sacred sites, I get to do 2 damage in each one of these sacred sites where there's invaders. So if I pay for all of them, 2 damage, 2 damage. Or I could just pay for one of them. Let's say I pay for this one, in which case I would do 2 damage here, and then in the other land, I would destroy presence. And that's kind of how this bottom part works. The top part, you should never pick this. The bottom part, you're better off just destroying presence than losing blight from the top part. Oh, but then again, it does push invaders. Oh, I don't know. Maybe this has some text, but usually I always pay for the bottom part. Now, the beast event is relatively positive. It says each beast generates 1 fear if invaders are present and moves to an adjacent land if not. Just a massive way to get fear. But really, I like this bottom part. It's a Dahan event that rewards players for putting presence in 4 lands. And just like cultural assimilation creates this mini game where you want to pair up Lone Dahan, this is going to try to create a minigame where you want to place presence in lands with a lot of Dahan. Of course, this is spread across your lands, but it's just a little mini game that I find that players that are thinking about it, and then when you actually hit this card, it feels very rewarding. And gaining that free miner is obviously very positive. Overall, I find this card to be, I would say, positive for the team. Beast Prowl is usually always positive. Spirit Speak is, of course, it's positive, but it's very hard to hit. And then the top part is relatively positive as well. Looking at the second event, we have Lesser Spirits Imperiled. And now this is just like Years of Little Rain, is definitely a very positive event. Now, I think it's not as good as Years of Little Rain, but it's definitely still very positive. The top part says, what is it? So you either pay 4 energy per player aided by plant, or this top part, and the top part is going to gain, you're going to gain 1 energy, and then you're going to flip miners from the deck. If the miners have plant, you lose blight. If they have animal, Dahan die. If you pay for it, it destroys a presence, and then you gain a permanent element. I really love this effect, just like I love having this one event that can allow players to proliferate. I just find it unique. It's interesting. It creates, it opens up the amount of choices you get to make. Then the bottom part here, it says quit the farmed lands. It allows you to push beasts and then possibly generate fear. And then it's a Dahan movement event. So both the farmed lands and the Dahan event, these are positive. And of course, the payment is also positive. If you do pay for it, positive. If you don't pay for it, you still get an energy. So like the energy is huge. Like worst case, you gain an energy, and I mean that's incredible. So once again, a bit on the better side, but I still really like the games that this card can create. Looking at the third event, we have Wounded Lands Attract Explorers. It says on each board, add an explorer to a land with Blight. And then it has Beast Chase off the Homesteaders, and then also Raiding and Retaliation. So this is definitely a negative, especially into Russia, HME, France. Adding explorers, very painful. This actually kills a lot of players into Russia, because sometimes, well, I shouldn't say kill, but it can cause problems. Sometimes into Russia, you may clear your blighted land, but then this card comes down. You may only have 1 blighted land. The explorer pops right down into that blighted land that's ravaging and causes an instant cascade, and that will come up on turn 2. So look out for that. Of course, the bottom part here, Beast Push and Raids, tends to be both positive. I really love the combo potential with Beasts and the Beast Push and the Dahan Retaliation. I love pushing towns and lands with beasts into those lands with Dahan such that they can die. It feels rewarding. One of the things that people forget about raiding and retaliations is it's checking lands with Dahan and buildings, but the damage can actually be done to explorers. Sometimes raiding and retaliation can punish players if you have strife in that land. The Dahan will deal damage to the buildings, and then buildings with strife, the strife gets removed, and this can sometimes screw up the team, but it's really fun to make use of it. Looking at the fourth event, we have Struggles for Growth. This gives the players 2 different options. They can choose to destroy 2 presence for a power card, or forget a power card for 2 energy and then move 2 presence. I really love this top part. Like this is probably my favorite event in the game, just because both choices are so interesting. It comes with a real negative. Losing 2 presence is massive for a lot of spirits, like Downpour or Stone or Green, but gaining a power card is a big deal. Same thing with this bottom part here. For getting a power card, that's huge. If you have very few power cards, for getting a single power card is, I mean, that's brutal. But then you get to gain energy. And a lot of spirits, they have a lot of cards, but not enough energy. Fangs, for instance. And then, of course, moving presence, that's also great. Now that we have Incarnas coming out, being able to move those Incarnas with this presence move is huge. I'm not going to look at the Blighted effect. Irregular outbreaks, this tends to be, well, this is 100% negative. Ignoring disease tends to be more painful than positive. I think the only time this would be positive if you ignore the disease, it builds in the land, and then Stricken comes the next card and then stops the ravage. But I've lost more games to irregular outbreaks with disease being ignored for the purposes of England lost condition and France lost condition. So yeah, tends to be negative, and then you're rewarded with careful defense, a +2 defend in Lands of Tahan. Overall, I think this is like the perfect event card, right? You have a very dynamic choice up top. You have a negative disease and a positive Tahan event. I wish more cards were like this. Okay, moving on to the last one. And we have Ethereal Conjunction. This is one of the new events coming in the Nature Incarnate expansion. This is my second favorite event card outside of Struggles of Growth. Once again, the players are given a very interesting decision. They destroy a presence and lose an energy. That's 2 negatives. Or they could immediately play a power card. They then forget that power card, and then they discard their hand. So it's this very interesting tempo play where you can get an extra card play, but then it forces you to reclaim next turn, or almost forces you to reclaim. Now there's ways to get around that forget. If you're playing like a spirit like Keeper, for instance, you have this really cool combo where you could play Boon of Growing Power with this bottom part where it says choose any non-major card, put it into play, use it, and then forget it. So you could play this card, gain a major with this card. Since you gained that major, you then can forget Boon of Growing Power. So it's essentially a free major power gain because this bottom part is causing you to forget Boon of Growing Power already. So it's a free major power gain if you have a power boon, which I think is really cool. Of course, discarding all of the power cards sucks. So it's better if your cards are in discard and then you want to play your power boon and then can get ahead that way. Once again, Irregular Outbreaks, negative card, and then it comes a very negative effect. And then you have a Blight Heal for the Tahan event. So very similar to Struggles of Growth, a very interesting choice up top, a negative down here, and then a positive over here. This concludes my video. 5 very fun events that I love playing with. I'm never sad when these comes up. These events are all, I think, more positive leaning. They tend to yield a better, they tend to give the team a leg up over the invaders, or mainly they're not as painful as some of the other ones that we talked about in the previous videos. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I will see you guys in the next video.